intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ. Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to our next segment of Inside the News. This is Inside the News. We've got Frank Vernuccio top left, Ben Brunson in the bottom middle. My name is Guy Wehman. I'm in the top right. And we are on radio. That's where we started. This is our 6th year of broadcasting and being on the air. And we're also on other outlets as well. Okay, Ben, this segment is international. Let's start with some China news. Now we'll get into the virus thing. But China, they're the nemesis. And I know we get tired of talking about China, but they are the big deal, aren't they?
Well, they are indeed. We have a new superpower conflict. The Cold War has ended. A new Cold War is underway. And it is a much more daunting foe, frankly, than we faced in the Soviet Union. And we were scared to death of the Soviet Union, if you're old enough to remember what the 50s, 60s, and 70s were like. The fact is that while China doesn't sit on the edge of launching a nuclear strike against us, as we feared with the Soviets, they are an economy that is a true challenge to the United States. They have a powerful economy. The Soviet Union never had a powerful economy. And it was inevitable that communism would fall because it had no economic foundation or basis for survival. China is different. They do have that. They are essentially a capitalist, a controlled capitalist, a capitalist society with a fascist government. And their stated desire is to supplant the United States as the true hegemonic power on this planet. And that is their goal. And everything they do is directed and part of that strategy. So we are now talking about banning TikTok, to the horror of teenagers all across this country. But TikTok is controlled directly by the Chinese Communist Party. All of that information is fed into databases in China. Huawei is a perfect example. The 5G systems, hardware systems that Huawei builds to support 5G all have backdoor implants implanted into the hardware, backdoors that allow China to spy on any network that has Huawei systems in it. And this is what we face. And so we have to make a decision whether we're going to confront this. For most of the last 25 years until Donald Trump, we were simply ignoring the issues and hoping that China would become a better, more malevolent partner, more like Europe. I wish they had, because then we could be in a partnership with them. But they have not. And until the Communist Party gives up rule, which is not on any foreseeable time frame, we have to treat them as the adversary that they are.
You know, Frank, you've heard that expression that they said that we're going to defeat you without firing a shot. That would identify China, is that they're trying to defeat us without firing a shot as far as bullets and ammunition. But the shots that they are firing, whether it's economy-wise or otherwise, it maybe could be far more dangerous, Frank.
Well, I think the firing of those shots might become literal and real. We'll talk a little bit later about the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is pivoting the United States to the reality that China is a direct military threat to the United States. China had the opportunity to be even more influential and powerful in the world if they had decided to concentrate strictly on economics. They did not. Their rate of military spending has increased faster than either the Soviet Union or the United States at the height of the Cold War. Despite the fact that they face no immediate military threat, they chose to do this. They have chosen to be belligerent to all of its neighbors. They could have overwhelmed many of its neighbors in the region simply with their economics. They chose, however, to add a military element to it. They have tried to push the theory that they did this because they want reunification with Taiwan and that the military was geared towards that. It is not. If you look at the way the Chinese have structured their military, it is a military specifically structured to confront and attack the United States and its allies in the region. Australia is the first of the United States' old line allies to feel the direct onset of Chinese power. We've seen the Philippines literally invaded by the Chinese in terms of their offshore exclusive economic zone, a move that was condemned by the World Court at The Hague. When that was done, of course, Barack Obama was president. He chose to not even offer a diplomatic protest, which encouraged Chinese military belligerence even further. We are looking at some very tough times ahead, and I don't mean economic, I mean military.
You know, when he mentioned Huawei, and we talked about this many times here, Ben, that kind of got in the way of some of our associations with Great Britain, didn't it? If I'm recalling correctly, Ben?
Oh, absolutely. The British made a decision to use Huawei technology, Huawei hardware in their growing 5G network, much to the chagrin of the United States. And we made the decision that if you go forward with that, then you will have to be removed from the Five Eyes, the historic 70-year-old relationship between the English-speaking powers, and removed from that intelligence stream, which has been pretty much a free flow of intelligence among the Five Eye nations, which is the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And it is a big deal to break that old network. And it's a big statement to say that you cannot be part of it if you use Huawei technology. It looks like Boris Johnson is going to ultimately kill the Huawei deal, but it's still not a settled issue. So these are real issues being fought, and the stakes are tremendous because obviously we cannot allow China to continue to gather the type of intelligence which it uses malevolently. Don't forget, inside China, they use a social credit system. They monitor everything by every individual, 1.3 billion people. They give you a score as to your compliance and acquiescence to the party line. And if you waver, you pay a price. If you waver too far, you'll forfeit your life to the Chinese Communist Party. They will make you disappear permanently. And that's who we're fighting against. And it is a true evil dictatorship from that perspective.
Wow, it almost sounds like what the liberals and the progressives want. They want to control your life totally. And boy, you talk about a segue into our next segment there, Frank, with talking about our election trail. That could be spot on. AUNTV.com. This is Inside the News. We've got to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.